You have heard some stories tonight of ordinary people doing some really extraordinary things. We also have a story tonight that might inspire you to lend a helping hand to someone in need, to give without expecting to receive. I had the opportunity to hear Ohio Supreme Court Justice Evelyn Stratton speak and tell a story about her family, and I knew I had to bring that story to you. This is a story of destiny and chance, of fate and happenstance, coincidence and divine providence. It starts with a Minnesota farm boy serving his country during World War II when he found salvation.
During the time he was in the military, he ended up becoming saved and worked with some missionaries in New Hebrides Islands. That's where he was stationed. My mom was a New York City girl, Long Island, New York, and she was in the Salvation Army, a kind couple because she was very, very poor, took her in and took her to the Salvation Army. That's where she got saved.
Elmer and Corrine found God. Then they found each other in Bible college, married, and believed in their hearts they were destined to be missionaries. But first he had to serve as a pastor in a small Alabama church, making $50 a week. And they had to somehow raise $1,000, an astronomical amount of money in post-World War II America, to fund their own passage to Thailand.
My mom was this great prayer warrior. She believed God was going to send the money, and sure enough, one day my dad came home and he had a check for $1,000. And it came from a couple in Toledo, Ohio, who randomly picked my parents from this list, sent them this check.
The faith and random kindness of total strangers sent Corrine and Elmer on the path that would define their lives.
And they got to Thailand and were sent to a little town way up by the Laotian border along the Mekong River called Nong Khai. We were the only foreigners except for one Catholic priest, and that's where they settled in.
Settled in to save souls and to raise their own family.
We were like the upper class for this village because we had a car and we had a house. And I can remember my mother saying to me when a couple of years back that she felt really bad that I only had one doll. And I remember looking at her surprised because none of the Thai kids around me had any dolls, so by comparison I always felt like I had a lot.
Eve thrived, even though 9 months a year she was in a missionary boarding school in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. Her parents, who were living out their life's mission because of an act of kindness, taught their children to give selflessly and to accept sacrifice.
My parents were so giving and so helpful, and anybody that had a need in their community or their village, they would try to help.
It was a lesson Eve carried in her heart when she came by herself to America at the age of 18 with $500 in her pocket. A lesson that got her through college, through the Ohio State University Law School. At the age of 34, elected as the first female judge on the Franklin County bench. Then to the Ohio State Supreme Court, to advocacy for adoption reform, and to work tirelessly to help the mentally ill who find themselves in the revolving door of prison life.
I really feel like in some way that's my mission. I still have that sort of religious side, and I feel like there's not a lot of people that pay attention to that issue. It's not a very politically popular issue, and my job, frankly, gives me some clout to work on it.
And Eve carried on her parents' mission of kindness to strangers, along the way helping elderly people from her church with wills and estate planning, church members like Ethel Morris.
And one day she came in and she was very upset, and I said, "Ethel, what is wrong?" She said, "I have this sister named Violet Moon, and she has this brain condition. She has to have brain surgery, but they canceled her insurance, and we don't know what we're going to do." And I said, "Well, why did they cancel her insurance?" She said, "Well, she forgot to pay her premium. She's been so forgetful lately."
It turns out forgetfulness was a medical side effect of Violet's brain disease.
I was able to get the doctor to write a letter attesting to the fact, And I talked to the insurance company. They agreed to reinstate her insurance if she would pay her back premiums. So we paid all the back premiums for Violet, and Violet was able to go forward and have her surgery, and it was very successful.
Violet Moon was alive because of the random act of kindness from a stranger. So when Eve's missionary parents came to visit some months later, Eve wanted her new friends to meet them. She called Ethel.
She said, well, I'll call up Violet Moon and see if she can come as well. So she calls up Violet and says, Eve Stratton's parents are coming to church on Sunday. Can you come with me? And Violet said, oh, I love missionaries. I know a lot of them. What are their names? Said their names are Corrine and Elmer Sahlberg, which was my maiden name. There was a pause, and then Violet said, 35 years ago, my husband and I gave $1,000 to Corrine and Elmer Sahlberg to go to Thailand. And I had no idea there was a Violet Moon in my life. It was a total shock to find that out.
Unbelievably, Violet Moon, the stranger who Eve had helped, was the very stranger who randomly helped her parents 35 years earlier.
You're the reason I'm here, you know? The reason I can help you is because you helped my parents. After I was able to absorb it, it made me feel like I have this job for a very specific reason, because that circle completed so perfectly, and that just could not be coincidence.
Is it destiny? Is it fate? Eve believes in the gentle, guiding hand of God.
I want people to believe that what you do can make a difference in somebody's life. It may not come back to your life, it may be somebody else's life, but the ripple that you cast will really have a widening net and can really make a difference.
Now, Violet Moon lived for many years after that surgery, and Violet and Eve's parents, as you might imagine, became the best of friends.
Absolutely.
And when she died just a few years ago, she left her Bible to Justice Stratton. So it really did kind of complete the circle. So we've had lots of stories tonight. This is an incredible story of a random act of kindness, and we featured some everyday heroes. Good news stories tonight.
Great news stories, and it kind of rekindles a lot of your faith in people and what they can do when they give from their heart without, as you said, expecting anything in return.